Dear audience, welcome to the UM6P studio during the UM6P Science Week in its third edition. I am Rasmussen, and today I'll be having an interview with the Professor Steen Rasmussen. Sir, welcome amongst us and thank you for being here.
My pleasure. It's been a wonderful experience so far.
Thank you so much. So the audience would love to know more about you. Therefore, the floor is yours to introduce yourself and tell us a little about your area of expertise and research.
Yeah, I'm born in Denmark, grew up on a farm, and after my PhD, I went to America, worked there for 20 years, and then I returned to Denmark, and I've been there for almost 15 years, 13 years, something like that. And my area of expertise is physics. So I studied physics at a university in Denmark. And my main interest is, since I was a little kid, I was interested in understanding why we are here. I mean, how is it that we have all this incredible complexity? Look at this flower here in front of us, look at you. And where does it come from? Because every experience we have, when we try to build something, things break. How is it that we can, what are the creative forces in nature? And that's been the focus of my research and my work, is to understand the physics of the creative forces in nature. And in particular, of course, one of the biggest or more dramatic things is that we apparently can, or at some point, non-living matter became alive. So my focus has been trying to understand and trying to make living materials from non-living materials. So making this transition from non-living to living.
Great. So my question would be the following. How is complexity included in your area of expertise, and how does it make it get developed?
So I think that living systems and the biosphere and human societies are some of the most complicated things we know. And and it is created, it's developed. Well, we know that evolution is an important part of it, but it can't explain all of it. And even if it was evolution, there are gazillions of steps that we don't understand. So I think that my study is to sort of understand the roots of how complexity can be created. So it's certainly a big part of it. But we don't have at universities, we don't have departments that study complex systems. It's in a way we are scholars that are sort of misfits in most organizations, because we have to somehow live in a place where we don't really belong because we are interested in understanding complexity. I mean, I've worked with physicists, and I've been also in a chemistry department. I've been in a geology department. And then now I'm back in a physics department. So sometimes you have to jump around a little bit to be allowed to study these things. Although I think they are, first of all, very exciting, but also very important for understanding many of these problems we are confronted with today, with loss of biodiversity, climate change, growth of inequality, just to mention a few.
Yeah. So as you mentioned before, university. As you know, the university organized this third edition of the Science Week, which is dedicated to youth. So based on your own angle of view, how do you think that youth can involve complexity in their own research? How can they make it develop step by step by using and integrating complexity in their own works?
Well, you have a big challenge, because to be honest with you, I think that most educational institutions are not really geared to teach you. I mean, I'm thinking about, when I'm looking at you, I'm thinking about my own kids. What is needed for your future? Because our institutions, our teaching institutions, are modeled after how they made sense in the industrial era. Today, we're confronted with quite different problems, and that requires a different way of teaching. It's not that you need to know math if you're a natural scientist, and of course, if you are in humanities, you need to know the history and the languages and whatnot. But to solve the big problems we're confronted with, I mean, to be useful for ourselves and our children and grandchildren, we have to work together in a way that our universities are not at all geared to. So my advice is to maybe not listen too much to what your teachers say, but follow your heart and try to make connections so that you can, when you're done with your studies, you can go out and help change the world for the better. And there will be teachers that will support you in that, most people, because most of us, we can see that there are great challenges out there that we have to address, and we cannot address it with the tools that we are being taught. So be humble but still, keep your enthusiasm and your hope, because of course, I mean, humanity has survived for several 100,000 years. I hope we'll be able to do that, but still, it requires that we're doing something very different from what we're doing today.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, you said challenges. So last and not least, so you mentioned challenges. Would you please tell us a little about the challenges you face so that you can empower youth to make efforts, more efforts, even though if they fail, because they have to know that we have to face challenges. Scientists did as well, and they managed facing those challenges. So could you tell us a little about your own experience so that you could empower them?
Yeah, so I'm definitely a misfit in terms of my education. As a teenager, I could see that I lived out in the country, and I could see that we had a river nearby, and everybody put their poo and industrial waste into it. And then we had some nice beaches in the summer, but when the wind came from the east, we couldn't go swimming because of the pollution. So I wanted to learn something I thought would be called human ecology. I went into the university back then. There wasn't any department for that. I couldn't learn these things. There wasn't any place I could do it. So what I did was, I figured out that if you want to study natural science, you have to learn some physics, and math is important. And then I survived by maneuvering and finding professors that I really admired and that I trusted, and they would sort of protect me in the system, and they would allow me to follow my own way a little bit. Of course, I had to pass all these exams, which I did, but I think it's important to try to see if you can connect with some of the people, and there are always many good people at such institutions. And then don't be discouraged, and also because you're going to fail. I failed many times, but then get up on the horse again, as we say, and also that's another thing that's been very important for me. Find a peer group, find some friends that you can hold hands with, or when things are tough, that you have a common value set. And that you would like to support each other and go someplace, because we need to change many things, and it's going to be very hard. Your generation will be confronted with some very tough times, and guess what? It's not. I mean, even though we are trying, some of us anyways, the people who are in power, they will not give it to you. You have to take it, and you have to force these changes that has to happen, if we want to have maintain a beautiful world we can all live in.
Professor, thank you so much. So I would like to thank you again for being with us here. And I would like to tell you that it was such interesting and fruitful conversation. And see you soon, dear audience.